Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Soundcraft Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Coming soon, Missing 2, Double Expense, Double the Fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by a sweet psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including theories, quiz of pains, and King David Psalms. And also check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, 40 podcast platforms, 100 countries. Make sure you check it out on MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with an amazing gentleman who's a singer, songwriter based in So.California, grew up in Hudson Valley, New York. His father is a professional musician at West Point Military Academy and learned from his parents. Later attended S, um, SUNY. It's a State University in New York in Oswego. Moved to a West Coast, worked in specialty lighting while raising a family. He attended Steve Earle's Camp Copperhead to continue his career. Also put together Muscle Shoals record shop, which with five other songwriters as well, performs out Southern California, like Whiskey a Go Go, The Mint, Viper Room, The Coach House, and more. And he's got a new release called, which is Yorick. More on that. Live, ladies and gentlemen, Plus Studio somewhere in Southern California. The amazing multi-talented singer, songwriter based in Southern California. Grew up in Hudson Valley, New York, and the title is called Yorick with the multi-talented Tom Ciurczak. Tom, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Mike. That's quite an introduction. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on board. I mean, you got a list of accomplishments. You're a singer, songwriter based in Southern California, grew up in Hudson Valley, New York. Your father's a professional musician at West Point Military Academy. You learned from your parents, later attended State University of New York in Oswego. You moved to West Coast, worked in specialty lighting while raising a family. You attended Steve Earle's Camp Copperhead to continue your career and also put together Muscle Shoals record shop with five other songwriters. And you performed throughout Southern California. And you also did a number of albums, Call Me Ishmael, I Ain't Ever Grown Up, and also Christmas Time in Hollywood, and plus Top of the Rainbow Volumes 1 and 2. We'll be talking about release. Yorick will be playing one or a couple at the end of the audio interview. Before getting to that, Tom, tell us how you first got started.
When did I first get started?
Correct. Yeah, go way back, Sherman, way back.
Oh, okay. I like to call it the Big Bang Theory, which was September 9th, 1964. And me and a million other kids had the exact same experience. We turned on the television on the Ed Sullivan Show, and we saw the Beatles. And
yes, that was the big one.
Everybody, that's the Big Bang, right? Everybody that saw that show decided that's what I'm going to do. And so a million kids picked up guitars, and I was one of them.
Oh my gosh. And I think some of us had to be 1,000,001. And besides, with the Ed Sullivan Show, what was that other exact precise moment that influenced you, what you do in the rest of your career?
What was the other thing that got my career going?
Correct, yeah. What was the other light bulb moment that simply influenced you into what you do in the rest of your career?
That's funny. In music, well, what happened was everybody started forming garage bands in high school. And so and we just had an area that was populated with a lot of like young musicians that were all pretty good. And so I, like everybody else, got into a garage band, and we played all over the CYOs and high schools and teen clubs and those type of places. But early on, I realized there was too many great guitar players. Mm-hmm. And there was too many great singers. This is at 14 years old. I'm coming to this conclusion that there's too many great guitar players and too many great singers. And I'm like, boy, I'm never really going to be as good as these guys are. Mm-hmm. So I decided I would concentrate on writing music, and I've been writing songs since I've been like a teenager. But when I say that, it's really like in upstate New York where I was, we got all the New York City stations. So we had the WABC with Cousin Brucey, which then evolved to the FM stations, which was WNEW. And so a lot of good information coming out of New York. And they used to do this Battle of the Bands thing in WABC. And one of the local bands and they do maybe 100 bands would enter tapes and whatever. The local band from my hometown wound up getting into the final 10. They went down to the Waldorf Astoria and they took first place.
Wow. Okay.
And so and this is when I'm 14 and I'm like, they're just too good and I'm never going to be this. So really, that's why I started writing music. And, I tell everybody that wants to be a songwriter, it's something you got to work on every day. It's not something that all of a sudden you say, yeah, I'm going to write a song and you sit down and you can't do it. Because I always felt that 80-90% of what you write is going to be total garbage. And it's going to take you a while before you can figure out exactly what you're doing and how to do it. And it took me a long, long time. But I actually have saved everything I've ever written from when I was a teenager. I've got notebooks all the way through with song, music, and lyrics that I've written throughout my whole life. And as I told you, I had to put some of it aside because, you know, my father being a professional musician would say to me, he goes, look, doesn't matter how good of a musician you are. He says 90%, 95% of the musicians, even the best ones, have a real difficult time making a living. So go to college, get a degree, get a real job. Don't make music your full-time job. Do it as a fun project because it's really, really difficult to be, full time at it. And I think he was right, at least in my case. God
Hmm.
bless all the guys that have been able to really do it full time. They're exceptional, they're special, and it requires not only being very good, but you got to have a lot of luck and you got to be in the right place at the right time.
True.
So, I really admire all of these people that have really, put their nose to the grindstone and have, emerged over the years and really made something of themselves. But, you asked me what the other big moment was, and I told you earlier when we were talking that I was a big prog musician. And so in college at SUNY Oswego, we had this guy come to our school, came in from London. He just released an album. His name was Bruce Springsteen. They had to drag me kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go see him. I'm like, yeah, he's not my type of music, right?
Hmm.
But I went to the show and my jaw was on the floor the whole time. I'd never seen anything like this. This is, I don't know, 76, that time frames.
Uh-huh.
And I was so amazed. It changed my whole thought on writing and performing music. And you'll note a lot of people say that my music sounds very Springsteen-esque. I tell everybody he's been copying me for years, but really, but really, the truth is that one show that I saw at SUNY Oswego in our small little gym up there really changed how I thought about writing music, how I thought about performing, and I was very, very influenced and impressed by and we had all kinds of great performers at that time. For whatever reason, the best bands were going through the SUNY colleges and all the smaller colleges, and they made a stop at all these places. So, Hall and Oates opened up for Lou Reed, and they were like a nobody band. And I watched them from the crowd. I'm like, those guys are going to be huge. Peter Frampton comes in, and
I remember. Yes, yes. Peter
he just
Frampton.
releases Frampton Comes Alive, and I'm like, this guy's gonna be huge. And all of these guys, right when they're just starting to tick off and become like a year before they become big, all came through these college towns. And but anyways, the one that really impressed me was Springsteen. There was something about his showmanship that was different, and there was something about his rock songs that had, I think there was a touch of prog element to it because of the way he structured a lot of his early songs. He would do these very, very long songs with lot of dynamic changes, and he would
Hmm.
change keys and things like that. And I really was very, very impressed with, all of that. And I absorbed it all, and it's still leaking out of me.
Hmm. It made me think of the two songs that stood out from Born to Run. It was Jungle Land and Backstreets. Those two really rang right there.
Yeah, and you look at Jungle Land from Springsteen, it really is although it's a rock song, it has all the prog type of elements in song structure, the dynamic changes, the rhythm changes. It has a lot of mood changes throughout it. So I love that song. Don't play it enough.
I know what you mean, but maybe think of Billy Joel's scene from an Italian restaurant. That's prog right there. It's like he probably won't admit it, but that's a prog. I think of it.
And that's another guy I was influenced by to a certain New Yorkers in New Jersey, right? That's where I'm from is New York. So in 1975, Billy Joel moved into my little town there. Outside of West Point's a town called Highland Falls. So he came in for the summer and he rented a house and he wrote all the songs for Turnstile album while he was there. And so at night you would see him. He was a young guy. He'd be out at the local taverns and the local bars hanging around with everybody. And that was pretty cool because we all knew who he was, but he really hadn't exploded on the scene yet. You
Mm-hmm.
know, his big song, I think, was Piano Man or something like that. So he hadn't really taken off. I think Turnstiles and then after that, 52nd Street really, boom, blew him up. But anyways, on his Turnstile album, he did a song called Summer Highland Falls, right? Kind
Mm-hmm.
of, he said nothing about Highland Falls or summer. It was kind of a song about a relationship that he was having that was going bad. And when he would get interviewed, he would say stuff like, well, Bob Dylan always did Rainy Day Women, and blah, blah, blah. And he never mentioned it. So I didn't. So I thought about this, and you'll notice on my very first album, you'll see a song called Winter Highland Falls. And I thought to myself, well, if Billy's not going to do it, then I'm going to do it. He had the opportunity for a lot of years to come back and reprise that song and do, the other season. He didn't do it. I'm going to do it. And I did a song about the decay of small town America, but I thought it was a nice, interesting metaphor. And a lot of people didn't pick up on it, but when I tell the story, they start to get it.
It sounds like you and Billy Joel seem to parallel a lot. And when you think about small decaying towns, Allentown was another one by Billy Joel. Allentown was really going downhill.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, my wife went to Lehigh, so I know that area as well.
I
Uh,
like that.
and that whole, well, the big factories, like there was, they had, semiconductor factories there. They had chip factories for printed circuits. All of them left. And, once they left, right downhill.
Mm-hmm. And of course, my little town with Art Garfunkel was decaying as well too. And of course, we're mentioned about all the people from New York and everything. Who are some of the other bands or artists that went through the college scene, especially over at SUNY and Oswego that had come and end up being successful? You mentioned Peter Frampton. You also mentioned oops, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Uh-oh.
Springsteen, Frampton. We had, and it's very eclectic. We had Poco that came in that year I was.
Pogo, that's a good one. I love them.
Hall and Oates came in with Lou Reed. Then we would have people like Weather Report. We would have who's some of the who we had that was really cool, and we had the National Lampoon Touring Show come through, and during the time that they came through, John Belushi and Aykroyd and Chevy Chase had just left and
Really?
they went to Saturday Night Live, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they replaced him, and the guy they replaced, I still remember sitting in the crowd looking at all of the media guide, and they're like, me and my roommate are talking. I'm like, get a load of this guy's name, Meatloaf. What?
Meatloaf.
And so Meatloaf was the replacement for Belushi. And Jim Steinham was the musical director for this National Lampoon touring show.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I swore after seeing that show, I'm like, this guy's going to be the next great comedian. He's hysterical. And, but I never heard anything from him afterwards. And a couple of years later, I'm, living in New Paltz, New York. and I have the radio on, and the DJ comes on. He says, "We got a brand new album from an artist called Meatloaf, and they puts on Bat Out of Hell." I sit right up, and I'm like, I can't believe this.
That's appropriate. Bat out of hell. Appropriate beginning for Meatloaf.
So, we had all of these type of people at that time come through that just emerged on the scene. And that kept happening no matter where I went. I took a job they moved me to San Francisco. In 1980, I moved to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I'm there, all of these bands came out of nowhere, like Huey Lewis and the News formed in the Bay Area at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The Tubes just formed in the Bay Area at that time. And there's just a whole slew of these. I thought, after the Dead and everything, a lot of that had, faded away. No, no, no. San Francisco was still a breeding ground for all kinds of great music. I
Mm-hmm.
hated to leave San Francisco and move to Los Angeles. I loved it up there.
Mm-hmm. And plus, Journey came out of that area as well too. And I think there might have been some other Bay areas. It's like I'm trying to think,
Oh yeah, well,
Oakland, something like that. Yes.
Journey, those guys were like a spin-off from Santana, I think. A lot of them came out of there, and Santana, of course, was from San Jose. And Doobie Brothers were from San Jose, so they're all from up in that Bay Area.
And there's a lot of them as well too. And you took up a job in specialty lighting as well. We'll get to that with Tom Ciurczak along with his latest release, Yorick. But first, you listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website with a breaking budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has got great reviews. And Evil Evan enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. For it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2, double the suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite pains in King David's Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote as the time of shepherd started and complicate yet turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner as well. Check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, 50 podcast platforms, heard in 110 countries. Tickets with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, get Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, goodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Great books, merchandise, and more. Support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. And also on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, The Mike Wagner Show. Check it out today. We're with the amazing multi-talented singer-songwriter that's currently in Southern California, Tom Ciurczak, here on The Mike Wagner Show. You talked about heading out to San Francisco. So what was that big point that got you going to San Francisco?
So everything is sometimes pure cosmic accident. I was selling computers when I got out of college for a company called Burroughs, which no longer exists. And that was my first job, and my territory was the Mid-Hudson Valley. And I was supposed to sell to manufacturing companies. The only problem is there's one big manufacturing company in the Mid-Hudson Valley, and its initials are IBM. Mm-hmm. And there was no way they're the 2 big competitors. They compete against each other that I was ever going to sell, anybody Burroughs Computers when you've got IBM sitting there. I mean, everybody's brother, sister, uncle, aunt worked for that company. So I decided after a year, I better get something else going. And I walked into this small import company and they held up a little halogen bulb and they said, "Do you think you can sell this?" And, I had learned enough from working with the computers to know what the right answer, which was absolutely, I can sell that. And immediately I started selling these specialty bulbs. And when I say specialty, it's pretty much if you subtract what you would know as general lighting, like household lamps, fluorescent lamps, and street lights and things of that nature. And it's everything else that has light bulbs in it that you would never think that had light bulbs. But like when you go to the movies, that was like a xenon arc lamp with, xenon gas in it.
Okay, like with the Fresnel lighting and
You
also the lights like on three gun projectors back in the day.
Yeah, so if you have a copier, the bulbs that were in the copier, I sold all of those. The bulbs for microscopes, bulbs for blood analyzing equipment.
Mhm.
When you go into a movie studio, the tricky part a lot of people don't know is they used to use, they still do. Uh, they would film at night in the city, right?
Mhm.
And they would make it look like it's daylight so they could clear all the streets out. And they would use these 18,000, they used carbon arcs, but then they used 18,000 watt metal halide lamps. Huge power things, right? But it would look like you're in the middle of the day. It's really 3, 4 in the morning. And so I would sell those type of lamps too. So, anyways, the German company that we were representing bought the distributor. And that company was called Osram, and they were like the third largest lighting company in the world. And they decided they needed a West Coast office. So the head of my company said, "Tom, get in your Volkswagen. You're going to San Francisco." I was like, "Aye, aye, guys, I'm out of here."
There you
So
go.
and of course I was responsible for the West Coast, and the West Coast was Chicago, draw lines Chicago through Texas and everything west.
Chicago as west, I think it is east or center. What were they
We
thinking?
they basically they had east and west. That was
Oh my goodness.
so that's
What
what I
happened to the
covered.
freaking Mississippi River, huh?
Yeah, so that's what I had.
Oh
But
my,
you know what? I was to me, I was young and this was fun. And I got to live in San Francisco for about 4 or 5 years. But then Osram wanted to get more into general lighting because in Europe they're a big general lighting company. They competed with a company called Philips. So they bought, I don't know if you remember Sylvania, but there used to be a Sylvania lighting company.
mm-hmm.
They bought Sylvania's because they wanted that distribution business. And so they wanted me to come back to the East Coast. I didn't want to go back to the East Coast. So I said, I got to find something else. And my experience where I have any value is in the specialty lighting industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that the Japanese were starting to come into the country at that time. This is when the Japanese were buying all kinds of property and stuff like that. And a Japanese lighting company named Ushio was looking for a sales manager for the United States. So it was a step up for me. I ran their whole company for the US. And I went in there in 1984, moved to LA, and it was two people, me and an assistant, and we were doing about $2 million.
Wow,
But
okay.
it's timing. Well, it gets better. It's all timing and luck because at that particular moment in time, the semiconductor market was going through this renaissance and it was really starting to take off. And the two biggest machine makers were Canon and Nikon, which were both Japanese. So
Huh.
all of the products were OEM'd or designed in were from Ushio. And we had a huge semiconductor base here in the States. I built the business over the course of 20 plus years from 2 million and two people to 120 million and 200 people.
Oh my goodness.
And so, and because I was like the first guy in, I was in charge. I ran the company. I'd go back and forth to Japan, and we had a little company in Germany that I had known from my previous job. So I would be going to Japan and into Germany, and so I was became a very much a world traveler at, 28, 29, 30.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, which was a lot of fun. And, but then I'm not always making the smartest moves. I decided, all right, I've had enough of this. And in 2007, I bought a company in Japan. They had a Japanese headquarters and a US office. So I basically would go over to Japan once a month for almost 8, 9 years
Mm.
for a week and a half to run the Japanese office and then, come back to the US to develop the US business. And after a while, this is just too much travel, and so I sold the Japanese side, and then eventually I've sold the U.S. side. But during that whole thing, while I was on with my own company, I had read something about Steve Earle having a songwriters camp, and
Interesting.
I was a big fan of Steve Earle. And my brother was like, he gave me the elbow on the side and he said, "Look, you should go to this. You've always been a songwriter. You like doing that. Go." So I went. And I like to tell everybody I found my lost tribe because there was 100 songwriters from all over the world there. And nobody knew what they were doing. Steve didn't had no idea what he was doing. He was, if you've ever heard his Outlaw Country radio show where he tells these stories, I've heard all those stories before. He just sat there and told stories of, you know, his whole life. But I met all kinds of great musicians there, and the day would end at 11 o'clock. We would do an open mic from 8 to 11 every night, and then 11 o'clock, we'd all, go out to a campfire and we were all, picking parties, I guess, playing songs. And I realized that I was really of the same caliber songwriter and player as everybody there. And a lot of these guys were really very, very, you know, hardcore professionals. I mean, from Australia, from Norway, from Ireland, from, everywhere. Unfortunately, when we left, everybody's handing me a copy of their CD. I
Huh.
didn't have a CD. So I went home thinking to myself, I got to keep up with the Joneses. How am I going to do this? And so, so I went home and sitting down at dinner with my daughter and son and wife. And I said, I want to record an album. I don't know where to begin. And my daughter was with a professional a cappella group in LA. And she goes, we have an engineer that recorded us, and I'm pretty good friends with him. Let me introduce you to him. So I went and met the engineer's name was Brett Grossman, and Brett and I hit it off pretty good. And he goes, "Let me bring in another guy and we'll work together. He'll be the producer, right?" So
Nice.
he brings in a drummer, Stephen Hacker, and those two have produced and engineered everything I've done, except for the one off in Muscle Shoals. But everything I've done, Ishmael, I Ain't Ever Growing Up, Volume 1 and 2, and the current album, as well as the EP, the Christmas EP. And we've just gotten better. Every time we've done it, we've learned more from the previous time, and it steps up, steps up, steps up. And I can't say enough about, the work that we've all done together to get the songs to the level we've gotten them. Uh,
Hmm.
it's really been the thrill of a lifetime for me to do all this because I never thought that I would, get these little songs that I've been writing all my life and really which was always my dream, to turn them into, full scale recordings. And
Uh-huh.
then to take them from recording level to performing them out. I put together a 6, 7 piece band sometimes and would take them out and perform live with it. So it's really been a fascinating last couple of years, uh, switching horses, I think, from the specialty lighting and playing open mics and things of that nature to get it out of my system to putting out albums, having them get airplay throughout Europe and the United States, putting together a band, playing all over, Southern California, it pinch myself.
And I think you're doing a great job as well. We'll talk about more of your music. Call Me Ishmael. I Ain't Ever Growing Up, Top of the Rainbow, Volume 1 and 2, plus Yorick that's coming out with the amazing singer-songwriter Tom Ciurczak. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, interaction warring author, me and Moses Missing. The Sweet Thomas by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Thomas Serena Wagner. We'll be back in multi-talented Southern California, Tom Ciurczak, after this time out. We're back with the amazing, multi-talented singer-songwriter from Southern California, Tom Ciurczak, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about your latest, Yorick will be playing one of your songs at the end of the audio interview. You mentioned Call Me Ishmael as your first, and tell us about some of the songs from Call Me Ishmael and your lyrics too, and what were they about? What inspired to write them?
They're all, the title song Ishmael. I remember sitting down with everybody, and we had, a first meeting. And I'm going to lunch, and I said, I've got this one song, and I want to do it, and it's a metaphor, if you will, for Moby Dick. Call Me Ishmael, which was the opening line from Moby Dick, right? And I said so, but the main character. This song is about exotic animal smuggling.
Okay.
And the main character that tells the story, Ishmael, if you will, is a parrot. It's not a person. And so you've got a parrot telling the story. You become aware of it at the end of the story because I give enough clues to it. And he's captured, he's in a cage, and he's sitting there saying, I'm not worried because Jesus is watching me. But as in some of the silly jokes everybody's heard over the years, Jesus was really a jungle cat. And the jungle cat at night came in and tore up the cartel and freed all of the exotic animals that were captured. And I did that song in very Steve Earle-esque style, with drop D tuning and a very swampy type of lick. And I was really, really happy. But the thing about it is I merged it together with like a prog type of bridge. But it's a prog bridge with slide guitar and mandolin.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I did that. And so I would tell everybody, it's like I created this new genre. I created something called outlaw prog.
I like that. Outlaw prog. I love it.
As I'm just joking around, but it really came out as a very cool song. And I did a number of other songs on the album where there's one that's called Sonny Came Back. And again, this is a poke at so Steve Earle had Sean Colvin. He's very good friends with Sean Colvin. She won a Grammy for Sonny Came Home, right? And Steve would always say she likes to write murder ballads, and she's great at writing murder ballads. And this whole big buildup. So I sat back and I was like, you know what? Maybe we need to write a song from the guy's point of view. So she goes in and she burns this guy's house down with him inside. I wonder what that guy was thinking when she burned down his house with him inside. He probably has a whole different take on the story. So,
definitely.
So I wrote Sonny Came Back basically as the guy's take on that story. And, he sees her walk into a bar he's at, and he's like, where's the back door? I got to get out of here, type of thing. So it's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor, which I continue through a lot of my songs. You'll see my humor is there if you look at the lyrics. They did the same thing with the opening song, which is Guys Like Me, which is a guy is a stalker who winds up stalking the wrong girl. And he's really a Pepe Le Pew type of character. And he follows this girl, and she's like, get away from me. I don't have time for you. I got things to do. And she actually is on her way to rob a bank. So he follows her inside of the bank, and she's telling everybody hit the floor. And she turns around and she's pointing the gun at him, and he's like, yeah, listen, we can still work, we can make it work. So it's that type of song. And a lot of my songs throughout have an act one and act two, and then the act three has a twist. So I try to do a little something that you don't always see coming on the third act. You'll
Hmm.
One of the really cool, it's a Springsteen-esque song because of the beautiful piano that's Aaron Durr did on the intro is Mine Torn Road, which actually exists. It's by the Bear Mountain Bridge in north of the city. And so the character, their nicknames are all real. The places are all real, and the story's all made up. But it's about, I like to call it a triple cross. And
Uh-huh.
so where they plan to double cross somebody on, say it's a drug deal or something, and they're going to double cross this guy. But during the double cross, everything goes haywire. But really, he's getting scammed, and his girlfriend makes off with all the money. Everybody dies, and he's just beside himself. So 20 years later, he's living on the streets. He's in New York City, and he's down by JFK, and he says, I think I just saw my old girlfriend. So he follows her home, knocks on the door, and he realizes she scammed him.
Ha.
So
Interesting.
all of these things, and I have probably a dozen songs that all have different types of third act twists in them, and you'll see it from album to album, and they mature a little bit from album to album because I start to think, how can I do this differently? What can I do that I haven't done? And I don't want there's a couple of things when you're writing songs, or at least I think about. I think about ear candy. So I usually you have to have two types of hooks, and it's usually a musical hook that grabs somebody's ear and a lyrical hook that grabs somebody's ear. Usually they don't study the lyrics that much, so
Hmm.
that's only for the deeper dive that they'll go in and they'll see that there's a story there that has a twist. But before they ever get there, you got to catch them with a melody that or a chorus that they really catches their brain, that old don't bore us, get to the chorus thing. And a lot of times, and the Beatles and George Harrison was wonderful at this, catch them with a guitar hook. And so you've got to do a little bit of both in every song. And then if you're lucky, they drill deeper and they start to see what's going on with other parts of the song.
How do you like that? And plus, you talked about getting better and better. One of them, ironically, I ain't ever gonna grow up. Tell us more about that.
So that's close to being a biographical song about taking a job and moving out to the West Coast and then taking a job with the Japanese. The part that's made up is the functioning alcoholic part of the story. But there's a couple of things I've always found lyrically that people gravitate to. And you've got to have, a troubled side in there. There's certain twists in a story people gravitate. So I had to put the alcohol side in there. Um, but that's not true. uh, but and that's a great song live because I'm able to get the crowd chanting "I ain't ever growing up, I ain't ever getting old," which is kind of an anthemic type of chant that I'm able to get the crowd to do. And it
Hmm.
really comes from Peter Pan. You look at Meatloaf and Springsteen, who I named them both earlier. Both of them would use Peter Pan references. When Springsteen did Born to Run, he's talking about Mary and Never Never Land and stuff like that. And everything that Steinem did was oriented and Lost Boys and Golden Girls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, was very much in that Barry's book. So I thought, hey, if it's good enough for those two, I'll do the same thing.
Hmm. And plus, you also be in Top of the Rainbow as well, too, volumes 1 and 2, and more about that one.
Well, that's not actually that's I Ain't Ever Growing Up, Volume One and Two. A Top of the Rainbow is a song on the newest album.
Oh, got it. Okay, I got crossed up. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. But what happened is I recorded 16 songs, and was talking with my marketing advisor, and she said, that's going to be too much for anybody to digest. And why don't we split it into two albums? And, a lot of people generally don't have enough good songs to make two albums, but it really split very well. And I got great reviews and great airplay by doing it that way, and was able to get, I think, a better shelf life where people are listening to my music because I split into two albums.
Hmm.
The very first song on I Ain't Ever Growing Up Volume 1 was a song called Ontario Nights. And I told you that Springsteen came to my college in 75, 76. The next day I went and wrote that song. I took it, I dusted it off. We're opening all the shows with that song until this new album came out, and now we're opening with a different song. But that became, our go-to opener. And so that's why it has a Springsteen vibe to it. Um, and there's a lot of songs that I had written over a 10-year period that I just had collected that were there. And they're just really cool songs live. The Bonnie and Clyde song is one of my better songs that I've got a lot of streams on.
Uh-huh.
It's a great song live, and it's again another twist where girl is has this guy robbing ATMs, and they're she's get him into the life of crime, etc. But she's
Uh-huh.
really undercover for the FBI, and
Oh my gosh.
in the end, he realizes she's with the FBI, and
Oops.
so it's one, but you don't hear that to the third verse. So that's one, and there's another song about upstate New York called "The Vault."
Hmm.
Again, this is about a group of friends in a college town, and we would all go to this place, the Vault, which is kind of a nice misleading name because it's a bar. It's not really not a bank, but we would all go there. And what happens is we rob this. We're going to be blood brothers to the end. We're the best of friends. Blah blah blah. After we go out all night, we go to this local diner, and there's a one-armed man in this look. We don't have much money, but there's a one-armed man. He's got a gun in his back belt there, and if you try to skip on the bill, he's going to shoot you. So
Hmm.
you can't run out without paying the bill. And I tell this, I hammer that home a couple of times, right? We rob the place, we bury the money, and then in the bridge and the chorus, we dig up the money and I shoot all my friends in the back.
Oh my gosh. Whew.
So it's a twist where I keep telling you, we're gonna be friends to the end. We're friends. All of this is all good. And I guess I watched too many crime movies, but
Mhm.
as you're writing songs, you're coming to a point where you're like, I can't end this, you know, where everything is nice and we walk off into the sunset. That's no good. I've got to end this with, something that's
Some more ironic.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we got to get an ironic ending. And so I'm constantly thinking and looking how to do that. I think that leads me to a lot of these you know, my friends and people will go, you got a lot of stories about drinking and robbing banks and wild women and I'm like, it's all in my past. I don't do that anymore. I've reformed.
There
But
you go, which leads up to your latest York featuring the title track. The Watcher will be playing those and others. Tell us more about York and what inspired you to write it.
so the Watcher is kind of an interesting. No one's figured out the title yet, but the story. So I was reading about the Nazca lines and how they're like, you can only see them from the sky and they're like, maybe ancient aliens would use them as road signs. And I was like, great,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have an ancient alien be the guy that's, carving and putting all these, mile markers in place.
Oh
So
my.
I make him the main guy in the story. And then the aliens that are supposed to pick him up, they leave him. They don't get him.
Oh
And
my.
so I have him, he goes in the morning, he dresses in black, but It's like he's the origin of the original Man in Black. And he goes to all of these different sites, alien sites or big sites throughout history. Stonehenge, the pyramids, the fall of the Roman Empire, the moon landing. And, he's in all photobombs, everything, hoping that the aliens will see him photobombing in the background and come back and rescue him, which in the end they do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's a very fun song because I wrote it musically much differently than anything else I had put together. And so it almost sounds like something that would come out of a musical in some regard, but I like that song a lot. Now, the thing I was going to say is most people don't understand the name, The Watcher. Why don't you just call it the Man in Black?
Mm.
And the Watcher is an ode to a character from Marvel Comics and the Fantastic Four. They had these beings that were outside the metaverse
Uh-huh.
called the Watchers, that there were aliens that would keep control over all the metaverses. And so I thought that's the type of alien I'm going to make this guy. So nobody has figured that one out yet, but I put that in there.
And I think that's really interesting as well, too, with Yorick from singer-songwriter Tom Ciurczak here on the Mike Wagner Show. You also got MIA, Chameleon, and ALTOWE. I like that one. Tell us more about those.
ALTOWD, which I couldn't print a title. It stands for another long, typical, ordinary working day. And again, a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor. It's about a guy. His job is he works for the CIA, and which I don't tell you again to the third act, but he's working for the CIA. He's in Afghanistan, and basically what he's doing is his job is to divert the heroin or poppy business from the Russians
Mm-hmm.
over to the Americans. That's his job. It's no big deal. So that's what the whole song is about. He goes down there. He's like, look, come work for us. We'll get you better money. You won't have a problem handling all this. We'll take everything you've got. But the only condition is you got to give up working with the Russians. And so that's that whole story.
Oh
And
my
I wrote
gosh.
that on piano, which is why it sounds much differently, because usually I use guitar to write songs. I wrote that on piano. Um, MIMIA, I started playing around with a tongue twister. I just was sitting around just being funny, and I came up with MIMIA or MI in Miami. And I thought, oh, that's funny. I'm never going to be able to get a backup singer to sing that, especially to harmonize to it. But I did. And so that was a song about, and it's got a kind of a nice America Ventura harmony, highway guitar harmony to it.
Uh-huh.
So that's the ear candy. You hear that really nice little guitar harmony, and but it's kind of a folk rock type of guitar harmony, not a hard rock one. Um, and it's about a guy who's bored with life, and he decides he's going to move to Miami and become a mercenary.
Uh-huh.
It just I look for crazy stories, and I think they're fun. If anybody does a deep dive and listens to the music, they start to like, what is this guy talking about? But they a lot of times with a lot of songs, people don't get that far. They don't really understand it. But I do put the cookies in there. So if you do a deep dive and you actually read the lyrics, you'll get a lot of laughter out of it and a real appreciation for what's going on.
Mhm.
Uh,
And certainly did as well too. Plus, you got your next. Where do I belong? And Wild One. More about those.
so let's see. Wild One is kind of a homage to Born to Be Wild. And it's an homage to a lot of my friends that died young. They lived life at full speed and just never made it out of their 20s. And there's some cool things I did in that song. That's another one with very nice guitar harmony. And one of the things I had learned from studying like Springsteen was
Mm-hmm.
that whenever he went into a sax solo, he would often change keys, and that would boost the solo. Like he did it. We talked about Jungle Land earlier.
Yes.
He does that in Jungle Land. He changes the key to boost the sax solo. So I change the key, and then I do guitar harmony twin guitar harmony that's really cool. And it's more of a Thin Lizzy type of twin guitar harmony than an Allman Brothers style. But it's really, to me, it's one of the standout little things that will catch your ear on the album.
Hmm.
As you go down through some of these, Your Next is really a Rage Against the Machines meets Springsteen meets the Who, and that really. So the Who had an album called Who's Next,
Uh-huh.
and I sat there and I'm like, I don't know why they didn't follow that up with a Your Next album.
I was just gonna say that you mentioned it. Who's next? You're next. We're all next.
Correct. So they didn't do that. Remember, I keep telling you, like Billy Joel didn't take Winter Highland Falls. I'm taking it.
Mhm. Or Billy Joel 52nd Street. Why not 53rd or 52nd
Exactly.
Avenue?
Exactly. He missed a couple of streets. So I I I did that, and it's really about don't be Rip Van Winkle and fall asleep under the tree, or the big bad wolf might come and eat you. So be careful. That's really what the song's about.
Hmm.
Um, where do I belong? When I recorded the Christmas album at Sunset Studio, which is the preeminent studio in LA, right? The Doors recorded their three albums there, and Exile on Main Street by Stones was recorded there, and Led Zeppelin recorded. So everybody that's anybody record. I'm a kid in a candy store looking at all the gold records on the wall. But anyways, as I'm walking around to go to lunch, there's a lot of homeless people. So I thought I should write a song about from the perspective of somebody as to how they got there. And I kind of did two takes on it. One where, the guy is very positive. It's like, uh, this is temporary. I'm going to get back. I'm on my feet. I'm going to get back on top. This is just a
Temporary, right? Uh-huh.
temporary situation. And then at the same time, I get into the decline into dementia, where he starts saying, uh, which side of the street do I live on? Where do I belong? So I have both of those elements going on there, which I
Okay.
like. And I use both a hard rock, intro. I use a very, soft rock verse, and then I use a very Genesis like chorus. So I really mashed together a lot of different styles in that song. Um, the 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 two big mid-tempo songs on the album. One is Yorick, the key song for the album. The other is Top of the Rainbow. But in Yorick, um, so it's funny. I'd say 9 out of 10 people don't know who Yorick is, and but Yorick is a character, or they kind of just casually mention him in Hamlet. So in Hamlet, he's holding out a skull. At one scene, he goes, "Poor alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well." And
Hmm.
Yorick was the court jester from his youth, and he had a lot of joy from Yorick. But they don't say much about Yorick other than that line, but it's a very famous line. So
Uh-huh.
I wonder what Yorick's backstory would be. I'm gonna make up a story on how Yorick lost his head. So I did. And I made up the story that combined, Brothers Grimm fairy tale type of characters. You've got
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Rapunzel in there. You've got Rumpelstiltskin. You've got the proverbial Wicked Witch in there. And I put this whole story together. And it's really it's call it a medieval type of theme song. And
Hmm.
so it's a folk part meshed together with some very, I'd say, prog elements in the chorus. And I thought it was one of the two standouts on the album. And I like the name for the album because I thought it really makes somebody think, what is Yorick? What does this mean?
Hmm.
And so that's and we made a great video on that. I don't know if
Okay.
you've seen it, but there's a wonderful video where I'm in complete jester costume and my face is painted half black, half red. Uh, it's right out of Star Trek. Uh,
And,
but it's
and no and no joking as well. And I think we haven't covered Chameleon yet.
Chameleon. Okay, so Chameleon, I wrote. I had this idea for like a television show theme song, and I wrote Chameleon could either be a television show theme song or a Saturday morning cartoon show. I
Oh,
thought
that'd be fun.
either one, this would be a really cool story. And it's about a guy who's, an undercover investigator who, you don't realize he's standing next to you, but because he's either in a suit or he's in, uh, plain clothes or he's in shorts like he's at the beach, you have no idea that he's watching you. And I thought it was very funny because I put him in like, 8 or 9 different types of scenes throughout the song. And I was just having fun with that. It was just a fun tune. The other ones, Top of the Rainbow, which is the only love song on the album. And it's done in 6/8 as opposed to 4/4, and a lot of songs are done in 4/4.
Uh-huh.
So that different time signature gives it a different vibe. But the thing that really, I didn't like it when we finished. I mean, I won't say I didn't like it. I thought it was missing something when we finished it. So we huddled, and I came up with the idea of adding trumpet and trombone. And when those 2 horns were added, the whole song just lifted up and changed, and it really made that song, a tremendously pretty song. And it's kind of a, gee, I loved you, I was on top of the rainbow, but you left type of song.
Right. Yeah. And of course, you have a lot as well too. And where can we find Yorick and all your works at, Tom?
Well, first of all, I have my own website, which is my name, tomciurczak.com. And the only tricky part is spelling my name, which I never realized it was going to be a problem until after I took out the website. But my
Oh,
last name is spelled Ciur, Charlie Zebra AK. And I'm there. I'm on Bandcamp. I'll be on all the different streaming sites as of tomorrow. I'll be Spotify and Pandora and YouTube and Amazon, iTunes. Just probably about 50 of them that I'll be on. And if you like hard copy, and if you're a boomer, you might like hard copy still. Not only do I have CDs because I have to send them out to the radio stations, but I made some very cool vinyl. And I don't know if you realize this really big change that's going on in the world of vinyl. I didn't. Well, when I was up there, looking at what they have to offer, I mean, they have like 50 different types of vinyl, different weights, but they have clear, translucent, different colors splattered. It's crazy all the different styles of vinyl that they have. It's
mhm.
really they become real super collector items. So
Oh, definitely. I still got mine in black and everything else. I still have my album collection. So I'll still play them from time to time. And now I know. So
oh yeah, well me too. By the way, there's one more song on the album you didn't mention, but I want to mention it. It's a song called Malleus Maleficarum. And the
okay.
reason I mention is nobody's going to know what that means. And back in the Middle Ages, there was a witch hunter's Bible, and it was
Hmm.
done by the German church, and it was called the Malleus Maleficarum. And if you look it up, Google it up, it gives you the whole story. And they would determine if they would have all these different things to determine if you're a witch or not. For
Huh.
example, they would fill your pockets full of rocks and they would throw you in a lake. If you float, you're a witch.
Sounds like Monty Python.
It does, but it's real. So I
Yes.
want
If it floats, look, a witch. Yeah, a witch,
that's
a
right,
witch.
but I don't think anybody ever floated because they put big rocks in their pockets, right? But I wanted to write a metaphor for the wars where innocent people are getting killed. And wars are wars, but I hate to see innocent people get killed. So I was like, all right, let me try to figure out how I can write a very interesting metaphor about and equate killing witches with killing innocent people.
Oh
And
my
I did.
gosh.
I did. And so that's why I wanted to bring that one up as well.
And certainly do. You're doing a great job of it. And what's your website?
It is tomciurczak.com. By the way, you can also get there with my Instagram handle, which is tokyotommy58.com.
Okay. And
Because
also on
I realized they couldn't say my name, spell my last name, so I came up with an alternate. I may still come up with a third.
And there's plenty of other social media go around with the amazing singer songwriter based in Southern California, Tom Ciurczak here on the Mike Winter Show. Be playing a couple of cuts from Yorick at the end of the audio interview. We want everybody to go to that. A few more things, Tom. We'd love to have you back. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Believe it or not, I recorded 20 songs at Sunset Sound.
Nice.
So there is another album in my back pocket that'll come out 2026. And I have enough material for two more albums after that's already sitting on the side of my desk. So I think there's quite a bit more coming.
All right, we're looking forward to that as well. Who do you consider biggest influence in the career, Tom?
Who's my biggest influence in my career?
Correct.
Outside musical influences.
It can be anything.
Well, quite honestly, really, when it gets down to it's growing up in a musical family, and my father was a horn player, and his whole family was musical, and so I think that it's somehow there's part of it gets into your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing is, as most fathers and sons, I decided I didn't want to be a horn player, so the guitar seemed the natural instrument once I saw the Beatles play. That's why I picked up the guitar. And I picked up the guitar at like 10, 11 years old. So I'm not, that's my go-to instrument for writing, but I also learned to play piano during my teen years. So it's fun to be able to write on both types of instruments because you get a lot different type of song writing on a piano than you do when you're writing on a guitar. I think it's because you're able to get a lot more colored colors into the chords because you use different bass tone phrasings with it.
Mm-hmm. Certainly did as well. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
You got to create positive habits. If you want to be a songwriter, for example, you've got to, it's like anything else. If you're going to be a painter, you've got to practice painting every day. If you're going to be a poet, you've got to practice poetry every day. If you're going to be a shredder guitarist, you better practice being a shredder guitarist every day. And that means you need to take lessons and you need to practice in the right way. And you need to have people that know more than you know that can coach you along the way. Don't be afraid to take lessons because, you can grow by leaps and bounds if you've got the right teacher. And I think that's really, really, I mean, at a young age, I had a couple of guitar teachers that if I didn't have them, I probably would never have stuck with the guitar. But both of them really influenced me in a way that, like, all right, I'm gonna master this thing, and I did. It took time because a lot of kids at 10, 11, 12, 13, they don't have the coordination, but keep at it, you will.
And certainly that's great advice as well. We want everybody to do that. We're here with the amazing singer-songwriter based in Southern California, Tom Ciurczak here on the Mike Wagner Show with York. We want everybody to go to the audio interview and check out the music. Tom, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Laugh have you back. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your music?
Well, again, it is Tom Ciurczak, CIURCZAK.com, or TokyoTommy58.com. That'll get you to my website. You can buy all my CDs and all my albums there. I'm also on Bandcamp, and pretty soon I'm going to be up on Amazon. I haven't put them up there yet, but I'm going to get the albums and CDs up on Amazon too.
And we'll certainly check that out as well. Once again, Tom, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. We wish you all best. And Tom, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I really enjoyed it.